Hello and welcome to Quaint and Cozy KC. This is season 3, episode 6. I am your host, Lainey Renee, and I am so excited to be here with you guys because I have got to report back. I spent some amazing time in Excelsior Springs, Missouri. And again, technically, it's my second time going there. But the first time, I had a lot going on. I had like a previous engagement that I had to rush to. So I only got to, go to the diner, Ray's down there, and then walk around downtown and trying to take pictures as fast as I could. But then I always knew I was going to come back. And so I did return a couple of weeks ago, and there was like a wine festival going on. I went on a Saturday. I went like a little bit later. I didn't go as early because I wanted to, check out some of the things that were open. And so I did like a nice little tour of that city. So what I did, I started off at the Elms Hotel and Spa. And so that's kind of near like downtown, near the Hall of Waters district, kind of like, in that area. And here's the funny part. In my mind, I was thinking this is such a tourist attraction. I was thinking if it's like a hotel and spa, I bet you it's kind of on a bluff somewhere. There's some kind of thing. No, it was like right there because I was worried I was going to have to like drive all over town because Excelsior Springs is kind of like Parkville. They've got that loop thing going on. So you kind of sometimes you're looping into town and you don't know where to kind of stop and you just kind of keep going around. I'm like, let me just loop de loop here. And so I did. And so I wanted to go to one of the restaurants because they have like three restaurants in the Elms Hotel and Spa. And so I didn't want to have breakfast there because it was a little bit later in the day. So I wanted to get lunch. And so I went to a place called Three Owl, like the Three Owls, and it's super cute. It's in the hotel, and they're it's like their lunchtime kind of place, and they are. I mean, it was delicious. But again, I have Aunt Lainey's kitchen podcast that I can kind of just give you more details, but it was kind of a great experience there. And so I walked around the hotel a little bit and then I walked around the grounds after lunch just to kind of walk off because I had a pretty big chicken Caesar salad and I washed it down with iced tea. And then, of course, I had to have their New York cheesecake, right? And so I was like, I got to walk around a little bit before I start, I head downtown. So I walked around the grounds and I took some pictures, and there's a nice Episcopal church across the street, and it looks like one of those charming ones I imagine you would find in England. And it, had like a courtyard, a garden courtyard. It was gorgeous. And even though, it was kind of it was nice that day, but it's been kind of chilly and cold, it still looked great. I mean, there's still some flowers in bloom, and it was just like a nice time. I just kind of walked around, took some pictures, and it was great. The Elms Hotel and Spa, I mean, I see why people get married there. I see why people do events there. It was just, walking on the grounds. It was like they had walking trails. I mean, it was great. It was a nice way to spend like an early afternoon on a 70, I think it was like 75 degrees that day. And so after that, I went walking towards like, closer to downtown, and there's a beautiful path. Like again, everything in that area is just scaped so perfectly. Now there's parking in front of the hotel, like, for the visitors and stuff like that. So I did kind of stay parked there because I was at the restaurant. So I just, instead of moving my car, um, I walked for part of I walked around the Hall of Waters neighborhood and I I mean, it's a gorgeous district there. It's downtown. There's a lot of bricks, right? It's a section of downtown. There's a lot of brickwork. And there's like a vintage store. The Chamber of Commerce is kind of like, it's got like a nice kitschy kind of, this reminded me of a resort town. Like in my mind, I could picture Excelsior Springs being like, on like a river walk or in like on a side of a mountain. It had that kind of charm, and it's in Missouri, right? Or Missouri, depending on how you pronounce it. But it was a nice little kind of break. So I walked through the Hall of Waters neighborhood. I took pictures. There's a lots of places, cute little B&Bs there, bed and breakfast there, cute little courtyards, lots of like places to sit, benches and flowers to look at. I mean, again, if you go to my Facebook page, Quaint and Cozy KC, I did some albums with Excelsior Springs, and then I kind of some of the things I kind of broke up. But yes, if you check out that Excelsior Springs one, you're gonna see just like the beautiful, like the flowers and all the scaping and just the vibe. The vibe was definitely immaculate. I can definitely see, doing like a little getaway there, even I would even say a weekend getaway. Now, usually for me, I'm a daycation person just because I'm busy. But I wouldn't be opposed to, going there on a Friday night, maybe taking a half day off, going there on a Friday and, maybe grabbing like a late lunch or an earlier dinner there, and then just like checking into the B&B or the Elms Hotel, something like that, whatever it is, and just like walking around like a 70, 80 degree, even like a 65 degree day, just walking around and just seeing everything and taking pictures and jumping into like the shops. There were a lot of cute retail shops and like little coffee shops, like all that stuff. So I could definitely see myself doing like a Friday to Sunday stay, or even, just doing like an overnight on Friday and leaving on Saturday, and maybe, leaving with lunch, or even doing a Saturday to Sunday, just giving y'all options, or just be a daycation person like me, and come either for the breakfast part of the day, or kind of like do the lunch and then just kind of stay there for a few hours. But it was super busy because there was that wine festival there. I mean, it was packed, which I love to see in these towns because they really are dependent on the tourist dollars. So it's a great little tourist town, a lot of fun. But I was there for the museums because what do you know about me? I like a good farmer's market, and it's still kind of early for that. I enjoy a nice museum, historical kind of thing going on, also some gardens, courtyards. But I was really here to experience the museums. I found the Excelsior the historical museum there, and it's super cute. And so I walked around in there, and it was kind of they didn't charge that day, but generally they do. But I think it's because they had all the people in town walking around, and but it was nice. They had like a lot of eclectic exhibits, and they had like old banking instruments, like those old school things. There was like a vault in there. I think it maybe used to be an old bank or something. There were there were old like toys. There was even like a big kind of like train that was big enough for a kid, just so if you're an adult, don't be trying to squeeze in there. But like, maybe for like a 4 or 5 year old, it's big enough for that. And they had like a bell that you could clang. And there was a little kid and he was clanging that bell. Okay. He was all about that bell. And then they also there's like two rooms, two main rooms, but it's big. It's pretty big, and they have signs in that second room. And that day they were actually doing a lot of stuff there. People were taking pictures against like an Easter kind of background, and people were kind of talking, and then there was like they also had a museum garage sale that was going on down the street, which was kind of cool. Again, I told them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm decluttering my house because I'm doing all these like house renovation things going on and redecoration. So I cannot bring anything else into my house that is not on my list. So I was sad to have to refrain from that sale. I did not even want to risk it because I am that antique vintage person. I did not want to risk it. So, I actually happened to walk by the sale, but I was really happy that I just kept walking. And like the volunteers there were very nice and very knowledgeable about everything. It's the kind of museum that I would go to, like, okay, let's say, because it opens at 11 a.m. So I would probably go like, I'd probably have like a lunch, and then because it's open from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., I would probably do like a lunch, then, go over there and kind of walk through. And if you're really intentional about it, it's about 30 to 40 minutes if you're intentional. And there might be like maybe close like two and a half, 3 rooms, but it's like, looking around like the very carefully curated things. Um, and like I said, the volunteers were very knowledgeable. And there's also like a museum, a different kind of museum called the Hall of Waters Museum. And it's got such a colorful history to it. And they used to serve like mineral water. It was kind of like one of those places like where you could get different mineral waters on taps, and then they kind of had to stop doing that. And so they're working on trying to kind of bring that back. But it's called the Hall of Waters, and it's like down the street. Like it's kind of like going towards the back of the museum. So I just kind of, walked out, and I hung a left and I just walked, and it was like, not very far away. It's like the parking lot behind the museum. So I went there. Now, this museum was a little quieter because a lot of people were kind of on the main drag, but it's kind of in the city hall building, so it's got this. I mean, there's a couple of rooms to kind of look at, but the big one where all the water taps used to be, gorgeous. They've got these like nice exhibits where you are seeing kind of like, I love how they have the poster board up there. So you can kind of walk by, and it looked like they had at least 20 of those up. You can just walk by and get the history, and just, you keep walking, and like the architecture is gorgeous. Now, the thing is that it does have, it's the kind of room that has echo, echo, echo. So just FYI, if sometimes people can't hear very well, they might be hearing impaired. And so that might be something that to kind of watch out for. But it's beautiful to look at. They don't let you go outside like on there looks like there's some kind of veranda thing. They don't let you do that. And I totally understand it, probably for safety reasons, but it's gorgeous. It's got a nice view. And then they also have like a back room that's more of like kind of like, more museum artifacts that are in there. And so I looked at that and I took some pictures, but I loved it. I was only in that museum for me. I was only in that museum for about maybe 15, 20 minutes. It's mainly for just really looking at the views and reading about it more than it's like like a typical museum experience like you're going to get like at the Excelsior Historical Museum. Okay, so after I did all that and I was like, oh wow, this is so fun. I went back through and I took, some more pictures. And again, I like was taking a lot of pictures before the first time, but there are a lot of murals in Excelsior Springs. Gorgeous murals that, I was like, oh my gosh, these are gorgeous. Like these really gorgeous murals. And it just has a nice, quaint kind of resort town, but like in the nicest way feel to it. It's very friendly there. So again, daycation, I would totally do it. I would tell people come, do a daycation, but just be aware when you're coming into town that a lot of the roads do loop around. So there's some loop-de-loop action. And when the weather is nice, it can get kind of packed. So, you have to use your best judgment. Like there's a lot of street parking or whatever, but use your best judgment as far as like, maybe I would say if it were me, I would get there about maybe 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m., get my parking space. Or if, come earlier, depending on what they've got going on, because they have festivals and stuff going on. And there was this cute little vintage place, and they had like it looked like a little luncheonette, but it was closed by the time I got there, and that was fine. I was done eating, but it was super cute. Lots of little retail shops like that and a little coffee shops. And I know I repeated that from before, but again, definitely something to check out and be mindful of. Okay, so that was Excelsior Springs. So I got to tell you, one of the things I love about my friend groups is that they are down for the Quaint and Cozy KC, let's like make the best of where we live life. So last week I went out and we had a theme. We were supposed to go to First Fridays, but it was pretty rainy and cold. So, we kind of like did a happy hour up north. Now, I didn't go to the first part of the happy hour. I came for the second part of the happy hour, and that was at the Hideout, which is a place in Gladstone. And it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like, it reminds me of like a mom and pop roadhouse type of place where everybody knows people and it's fun. They always have like a cover band playing, there's a dance floor. People are just really friendly. It's like that neighborhood bar. Now, right now, they are working on their menu, just FYI. And so I want to kind of, manage expectations. They're working on their menu, so it's kind of a limited thing. But I always say, listen, I'd rather have you be working in your best with a limited menu than a huge menu and everyone is struggling, whatever. So they're kind of getting their footing back with everything. And so, if you go, just be really patient about that because they are kind of on a more limited menu. So we had so much fun. We dressed up. The theme was the 1960s, so of course I had to dress up and my best. I kind of was doing like a Laverne and Shirley, kind of like the fuzzy sweater with like the headbands. And I was gonna try to flip my hair, but my hair has grown out so fast that it's harder to flip now when it's long. So I was like, I'll just kind of put it in the headband and I'll do like the 60s, kind of the 1960s, what I perceive it to be, that makeup. Now, some really exciting things that I'm also doing is so this Saturday, April 12th, there is going to be a tulip festival that I'm eyeing. And also there's going to be, and that's in Kearney or Kearney. I never get that right. And then also there's going to be like an orchid, some kind of on the 13th in Merriam. They're having an orchid auction. It sounded so exciting when I was looking at that. I was like, I definitely have to check that out. Now, somebody asked me, and people ask me all the time, where do you find all this stuff? Well, I already have some goals for Quaint and Cozy. Like I'm going to farmers markets that I haven't been to. I'm gonna visit small like downtowns, area downtowns that I either haven't been to in a very long time or I've never been to really or paid attention to. I'm also looking at museums and historical societies. So those are kind of the things that I'm looking for, right? Obviously, I kind of want to see if there's, food because I'm going to review that for my Aunt Lainey's Kitchen podcast and blog. But that's kind of like what my criteria are. Now, if I didn't have that criteria, I would look on Facebook. And I know Facebook is like I don't know what Facebook, Eventbrite, the Eventbrite app, meetup.com, the local meetup groups, they're always doing something. They're always trying a new place. So I would look at that. There's just a lot of kind of things that I look at, like the events, and I figure out, okay, like what's my sweet spot? My sweet spot, honestly, I like to do a lot of stuff in the daytime. On the weekends, I love to do things on the daytime. I might, sneak out and meet friends during the week, but generally, I like to do things during the day because on Saturdays, because I am doing a lot of like I have a 40-hour a week job. Like I'm, working on my house that looks like a construction zone right now. Like I'm writing, I'm doing this stuff, I'm socializing, I'm doing a lot of stuff. So I like, I'm fine with the weekends, but I'm, doing that for a few hours on the weekends before I have to come back to the construction zone and work on that kind of stuff. And so that's where I find my things. Also, my criteria, like when I am, because someone also asked me, like, how do I know what to wear? Well, going someplace like the Elms Hotel and Spa, I wore a dress and, some nice shoes that were walkable, like some nice, comfortable, walkable shoes. Um, so I kind of like do that. I mean, I wasn't super fancy, but I was dressed nice for like a lunch. Like I tend to dress a little bit more formally, but again, like, everybody's different. But the main thing is that you want to be respectful to the venue, whatever their dress code is, but also you want to be able to move and wear comfortable shoes because it's not fun to look like, oh my gosh, she looks like she came off the runway, but your feet are swollen because you've got heels on or you wear some uncomfortable hiking boots. So my first rule is I've got to wear comfortable footwear. And I've been known to wear espadrilles with like sundresses because I got to move. I want to take pictures. And sometimes when you're wearing a wedge sandal, that does not work. That is not a wedge sandal, although super cute, not always conducive for getting like really good, my cell phone photography. It kind of can, it can prevent me from being great within that realm. Okay, so something else that I wanted to talk to you about is, doing the research for it. And again, it's not just finding the events, but like doing the research beforehand. Now, I used to be someone that did all the research, and then by the time I got to the place, it kind of was like wah wah, because I'd already kind of looked through everything, and I felt like, oh, I feel like I've already been here, and it wasn't in a good way. It was like yeah, I mean, I guess I saw that already. Like I already know the history of that. So I have, for my research now, I do light research. I like research where it's located, what the parking is, maybe a little bit about the history of, because I'm doing a lot of downtowns. Oh, what's the history of downtown Belton, for example? Oh, just like a little brief history. And then I go in. So when I take pictures, what I try to do, and I've said this in previous podcasts, especially for the smaller museums, I'm not going to take a ton of pictures and show you, where show you everything so that you've already seen it and you're like, oh, wow, I feel like I've already seen it. I don't need to go and support them. I want to give you a glimpse to kind of, intrigue you a little bit more. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about, like when I'm doing that. So speaking of intriguing, I went to another intriguing place and it's in Waldo. Now, here's the funny thing. I was like, does Waldo, like, I remember looking this up, like, does Waldo have any museums? The Waldo neighborhood in Kansas City? And they do. So I went to the John Wornall House Museum, and that is located in the Waldo neighborhood, like on Wornall Road, like 6115 Wornall Road. And I want to, because, Waldo can be a little confusing. So I wanted to give you that address. And, I'll be writing about that as well. I'll be posting that. I'm just giving you a sneak peek because, my next podcast, I'll be telling you all about the tulips and the orchids and all that stuff. So I didn't want to pack in too much in that podcast. So I went there and it's super cute, you guys. Oh my gosh. Now it was cold and rainy, so I did not get the full benefit of like really strolling through, but they've got like a garden. And again, it's kind of early in the season, but there were still some flowers out. There were some flowers that were out, they look like daffodils, some nice daffodils that were out. So I took a couple of pictures of those. You can find those on my Quaint and Cozy KC uh Facebook page and on there and then you can go there. So they do self-guided tours in the morning only. And so like, if you end up there in the afternoon, you have to do like a guided, I believe you do a guided tour, but again, everything's always changing sometimes at places, so check in with that. But that was my understanding that you have to do a guided tour. And they don't do tours. They don't do tours on. They don't do morning tours on Sunday because they open a little bit later, and I think they're all guided on Sunday. So I loved it. It was like someone's house. It was like being in someone's house, and it was gorgeous inside. I mean, it was really nice, and it was one of those old houses, and you could just kind of feel the presence. You can go to the John Wornall House Museum. That's where I categorized that. I wanted to make sure I didn't just put it under Waldo. And it's like this beautiful house, and it's like a home. You walk in, you can see like some really cool things in there. It's kind of like being at your fancy aunt's house, your fancy aunt and uncle's house. It's just the grounds are gorgeous. As I stated, there are gardens. And it's just like this delicate kind of house. So, they've got the two rooms, and right now, because they've got construction going on, it's like, oh my gosh, everyone's got construction going on. The kitchen is you can't go in there, which is totally fine. Um, but they have the two rooms downstairs. Then they have an upstairs that has like, like a little lobby area, and then they have the two rooms there to kind of explore. So for me, because it's one of those old kind of, quaint but a little spooky houses, it's a little spooky in there, but um it's one of those places where I could spend all day and I could find every little nook and cranny, like, oh my gosh, this is so precious. But like realistically though, for me, it's about a 40-minute tour in there, like just kind of looking around and slowly, if you give yourself time to slowly do it, because you still have to go upstairs. And also, if you're someone like me, like I walked around the grounds too after my self-guided tour was over. So you want to make it like maybe it's more of an hour if you count the grounds. And I'm sure when it warms up and it stays consistently warm, you're going to want to spend more time there. Definitely going to want to spend more time, in the gardens, like looking around. It's so cute. It's so cute and precious in there. So that's kind of what I did. Now, there's another, I believe that there is like I think it's called it's at the Major's house, but I didn't go there, and that's more of like you can kind of walk around and look at, it's like the Wornall Major's house, I believe. And I did not do that, and because I think it's mainly located outside. I'll have to, when the weather warms up, I'll have to like look into like um exploring that more. But it was cold. It was cold and rainy on Saturday, so I was just trying to make it at that point. And so yeah, but I believe that there is like another kind of aspect to the museum there. Now, you might be noticing, if you're a museum person, like some of the museums, they're coming back online because it's April. So I know Atkins Johnson Museum is back open again. So that's going to be really exciting. That's a special place in my heart for that place. And then also the farmers markets are starting to open. I think, in the next couple weeks, they're going to start to open. And I just ask everybody, as I always say, be patient, because right now they're opening. They're not going to have everything ready. Okay, like some of the vegetables, the fruits, whatever, they're still in the quote unquote proverbial crock pot as we speak. So, sometimes they don't come out until like maybe closer to June after Memorial Day weekend. So just kind of be mindful of that. But they still have great things for sale there. So again, just like a little major note, because I know more people are getting in the farmers market lifestyle, like they're kind of going back to that kind of thing. And that's great, but you have to show patience. for the people, the vendors there. The first couple weeks, everyone's trying to get their groove, figure things out. So, just kind of be mindful of that. And I think, a lot of those places have entertainment now. And so I've got some farmers markets on my list. I've got the one, so Pittsburgh. Definitely Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, Kansas. But I feel like that's going to be more of I might spend the night kind of thing. Like I might go down on Friday after work and spend the night and then, walk around on Saturday and then come back home. I might do something that might be like more conducive for me since that is kind of a further drive. And then also I'm looking at Fort Scott and then Lewisburg and uh, definitely want to see what they have going on in Weston because I always miss the Weston farmers market because I don't think it's as long as the other ones, but also it's like I like by the time I get everything together because I'm buzzing across the city, it's already closed for that. I'm like, dang it, I keep missing it. So I'm going to do a dedicated day to Weston. Also looking at Joe's. St. Joe, I'm looking at going there as well. That might be something else where I do a trip where I, spend the night, like do like a Friday and like, because again, it's going to be light outside. So I can do like a Friday, after work and get on the road there and, check into my hotel and then hang out there because they've got a lot of cute museums there as well. And sometimes one thing I'm also learning is sometimes you're going to have to come back. Like, because all these places are within like an hour and a half of my house, I have to remember that, you know what, Elena, hey, you can't hit six museums at once. That's fine. Just do two and then come on back because that's a great thing when you live close. You can just go on back. It's not like me, living like, flying to New York and then I'm trying to pack everything in like a week because, I don't live there and it's far away and it's, but here because I'm in the area, it's okay to like, leave a little bit on the table, right? It's okay to say, you know what? I'm going to do the farmer's market. I'm going to do like a library, maybe a tea shop. I'm going to check out like a museum or two, and then I'm going to go back home. Even though there's all these other cool sites, you just leave it for, you got to leave something on the table. You always have to, my dad used to say, you always have to have something to look forward to. And with the Excelsior Springs thing, like I'd almost skipped that first trip because I was like, oh, I can't do everything in one day. And then I had to remind myself, hey, Excelsior Springs is not that far away from you. And it's okay to leave something on the table. Nothing wrong with leaving a little bit of something on the table. So on that note, I'm going to talk to you guys later. Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Every time I open up Facebook or I'm looking through like some of my other sources, and again, I'll talk about some of my sources like next week. Um, I look, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something else. Like I know one of my friends was talking about fountains, like all the fountains around the city. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could add another mission to what I got going on right now. But hey, who knows? I might get in between farmers markets or whatever. It might be something where I decide, hey, I'm too tired to really drive out of town. So maybe I can, uh, stay a little bit more local and check out some fountains in my area. So when I'm picking these things, right before I sign up, when I'm picking these things, if I'm going to do more than one, I try not to do more than three of something, just because after a while you get tired and you're just like phoning it in. And, it's great to take pictures, but I actually want to experience it myself since I am a big proponent of the quaint and cozy KC lifestyle. Okay, I'm leaving for real. You guys have been great. You can find me on quaintandcozykc.com. I'm on Facebook, Quaint and Cozy KC. I'm on TikTok for however long we have it. Quaint and Cozy KC on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm trying to post more on Instagram because I always forget I have it. So I'm trying to do more of that, but you can find me and please, everybody, let's support as many local businesses as we can. Let's get out there. You might not be able to be on a vacation, but you can definitely be on a daycation. Take care, everyone, and I will talk to you soon.